Hi guys, it's Taylor, and Happy New Year! So this is a little bit late coming out. I started seeing these types of videos come out before the year actually ended. However, on January 30th, I finished my last book of the year, so I thought it would only be fair for me to film this video right after the new year. So here I am. These are the top 16 books of 2016. Let's get started. At number 16, we have The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. I really enjoyed this book. If you don't know, it's the sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn, and it's a retelling of 1001 Arabian Nights. I really like the characters. I love Shahrazad, I love Khalid. All of the characters are just really fun. I wish it would have been higher on my list though, since I did love the first book. However, I thought this was a great conclusion to a great duology. Next up, we've got Rat Queens, Volume 1, Sass and Sorcery. So this is a comic book series about 4 women who live in this fantasy world, and they're very crass. They drink, they smoke, they swear, they do drugs, and so they're not your conventional heroes, and they don't feel compelled to be these conventional ladylike heroes. So this was really good. I did think it was a little bit too unnaturally crass. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't act much like these women, but I felt like even for women who are supposed to not be, you know, the stereotypical sophisticated lady, they kind of went a little bit overboard in trying to kind of denounce that stereotype. And to the point where these characters sometimes don't feel realistic, but nevertheless, I thought it was really funny and enjoyable. I do like all of the characters, even if they can be horrible at times. I just think it's a really good opening to hopefully a great comic book series. For number 14, we've got The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I also wish this book had been higher on my list. However, I read so many great books this year. As you can see, I don't have it with me now because I loaned it out to a friend. I hope she enjoyed it as well. But yeah, this book, as I said earlier, is the first book in a duology. It is a retelling of 1001 Arabian Nights. It's really great. There are a lot of people of color in this book and a lot of strong women in this book, and I highly recommend it. It is a wonderful first book in a duology. For number 13, we have Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles series, which is a sci-fi retelling of classic fairy tales. If you can't tell by the cover, Scarlet is meant to be a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know why I was going to say Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I don't know what about this cover would give you that impression. But yes, it is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, of course, with a sci-fi twist. I really enjoyed it. It's not the highest on my list, but I did find myself liking it. It's a very quick read. Like, I think I finished this in 2-3 days tops. So I do highly recommend it for readathons. Number 12, we've got Rivers of London by Ben Aaronovitch. This is a book I read out in London. As I said earlier, I did get it signed by Ben Aaronovitch. He is a great speaker. He was really funny, really great, and it really does reflect in this book. If you haven't seen my previous videos, it takes place in London, and it's a police procedural, but it takes place within this section of the London police force that deals specifically with supernatural crimes. So there are witches and vampires and warlocks and river spirits, and they all come together in this huge overarching mystery. So yeah, I really enjoy it. Peter Grant is a great character. It's one of the few books where there is a main character of color. The majority of this book is filled with people of color, which I really enjoyed. So I do highly recommend this book. It's very funny, very interesting. It tries to make scientific sense of the magic in this world, which I also think is very interesting. So yeah, check this book out. I highly recommend it. For number 11, we have Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. It is a science fiction retelling of Cinderella, where Cinder / Cinderella is a cyborg, so she's got a robot leg. And it's a very, well, and more of a robot anatomy, but that's explained in the book. So yeah, I highly recommend this series. I am not finished yet. I started Crest before I went to London and I never had time to finish it, which I highly regret, so I am going to try and finish that book relatively soon. But yeah, a great addition to a great series. For number 10, we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Six of Crows duology. I really love how this book is formatted. If you can't see, the crow's wing forms a little city, and the pages are black, which I really love. This book is a fantasy heist novel, and it takes place in the same world as the Grisha trilogy, which I haven't read yet, but I fully intend to. This features several characters who are outcasts in their own right, but together they form this really great team, and I do love the group dynamic in here. Matthias is my crush in this book, but all of these children are my babies. Characters? That was weird. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. I really enjoyed it. It's a great summer read, although I guess it would fit in winter as well, since they're breaking into an ice palace, kind of. But it's great, and once again, I highly recommend it. I can't speak about these books well enough. Yeah. Next up, we've got The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. These are the Throne of Glass novellas that take place before the first book, and they do explain a lot. If you don't know, I kind of read the Throne of Glass series out of order. It should have been 1, 2, 3, this book, and then book 4, because when I read book 4, there were a lot of characters or they mentioned things that I didn't understand. So after I read book 4, I went ahead and picked up this book, and I really enjoyed it. It's definitely not my favorite in the series, but I think it's a good way to explain Celaena's character, and you do really see the development of how she is from this book all the way even to book 1, but basically from book 4. I haven't read the 5th book yet, no spoilers. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Next up, we've got the Miss Marvel comics at number 8. So I have 1 and 3, but I don't have volume 2 yet. Well, I read it, but I borrowed it from a friend. But these books follow Kamala Khan, a Pakistani-American superhero and inhuman that lives in Jersey City, and it's about how she saves the world while also juggling average teen life. They're very good, they're very lighthearted, they're my favorite comic book series so far. I highly recommend them because Kamala Khan is just a great role model and a really great female character and great representation. Way to go, Marvel. At number 7, we have The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them Screenplay by J.K. Rowling. This was the last book I read this year. And if you haven't noticed, I talked a lot over the past couple months on BookTube about how I was rereading the Harry Potter books on audio, and I decided not to include those books on my list because that would be numbers 1 through 7 on my top, on my favorite books list, and that's not fair. So just assume that those books have a higher place amongst my rankings, as they always will. So this was the only Harry Potter related book that I included on this list specifically. See the next video. And I really enjoyed this. I'm planning on putting up a review of both the screenplay and the film later on because I think both warrant talking about. But yeah, as of right now, I really enjoyed the screenplay. It was nice to see the emotions behind the characters because it's not always blatant on screen, but when you read a screenplay, it's basically kind of telling actors how to act. So she, is sad while it's shown on the actor's face. It's very nice to see it put blatantly on a screenplay. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I think the book is gorgeous, and I will definitely read this again because I do think it is amazing and a very quick read. At number 6, we've got Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Diviner series. If you don't know what the Diviner series is about, it's about these people with special powers that live in New York City in the 1920s, and they tend to be relatively young. And there's a lot of ghost work there, and divining and stuff like that. And so this is the sequel, which focuses more on Henry Dubois and Ling Chan, and they are both amazing characters with a great dynamic, and they're both minority characters, so that was really nice to see. And this book happens to do a lot with dreams and dream walking, and at first I thought it was going to be boring, and I was scared of that, but I did really enjoy it, and that's why it ended up so high on my list. Unfortunately for number 5 on my list, I don't have it with me, which I really should buy a copy of it, but that is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. I read it for the second time when I was in London for my Shakespeare seminar, and I really enjoyed it. It is my favorite Shakespeare play. If you don't know what it's about Macbeth of Scotland, who is told a prophecy by 3 witches that he will become king of Scotland, and that while his friend Banquo will not be a king, he will bear kings. So this prophecy causes Macbeth and his wife, Lady Macbeth, to kind of take this downward spiral to try and gain the throne. And once they do, chaos ensues. So this is my favorite Shakespeare play because it can be translated so effectively to other genres. If you've ever seen House of Cards, that is an adaptation of Macbeth, which is amazing. A loose adaptation, of course, but you can take this power-hungry couple and put it in almost any situation, from the United States government to maybe high school council. So stuff like that is really interesting, and it's just amazing. Number 4 on my list, we've got Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is her first completed but last published novel, and I've talked about this a lot on my channel, so I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it's about a young girl named Catherine Morland who loves reading Gothic novels and wants to become a heroine in these novels, and her imagination runs a little too far, and her boyfriend Henry Tilney kind of has to clean up the mess. Boyfriend. They didn't date back then. It was more of a weird supervised dating. But basically, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I had to write about it for my research paper, so I got to study it in depth. Jane Austen is a master with words, and it's amazing. It's definitely not my favorite by her, but I am so happy I got the opportunity to read it. Next up, we've got Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, which features Celaena Sardothien. But yeah, this is the 4th book in the series. It's been a while since I've read it, but I do remember I really enjoyed it. It was the first book I completed this year, which is amazing, and it's so big. But yeah, I definitely need to reread this because I think I've forgotten almost everything that happened in this book. For number 2, we've got The Diviners by Libba Bray and Like with the Wrath and the Dawn. I do not have my copy with me because I loaned it out to a friend because it is so amazing and needs to be shared with the world. But I've already talked about it a little, so I'll just kind of talk about how Libba Bray really captures this creepy and mysterious vibe and kind of juxtaposes it with this rapid industrialization that was so present in New York in the 1920s. And how you have people who are trying to modernize as quickly as they can, and people who want to make things the same. And kind of just mixing that with this whole supernatural element, and I think it is amazing, and hopefully she'll get around to writing / finishing / publishing the 3rd book in the series. And of course, you probably already guessed my number 1 favorite book of 2016, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. When I say this book is amazing, it is the biggest understatement of my life. It is far beyond amazing and wonderful. This is the book that beat out J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey, and Libba Bray's The Diviners. It beat out William Shakespeare. This book is a retelling of Hades and Persephone, and compared to the first book is whatever. This book blows it out of the water, blows everything Sarah J. Maas has ever written out of the water. It covers so many interesting themes, and it's not afraid to shy away, and I've talked about this book enough on my channel, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but the characters are amazing, the drama is compelling, the action is amazing, and the plot just knows when to take its time, but knows when it needs to pick up the pace. Sarah J. Maas, you are a wizard. Thank you so much for giving me not only the best book of 2016, but one of the best books I have ever read in my life. And those were my best books of 2016. I hope you really enjoyed this list. I had a lot of fun going through all the books I read and marking down which ones need to be on that list. So join me next time when we cover the worst books of 2016. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and feel free to follow me on social media, which I will link in the description box below. Thank you so much again, you guys. Have a happy new year. Bye.